One of the core elements of data privacy is trust, and that can be trust with your customers or clients, or trust with your employees, suppliers, etc. And so making data privacy a focus in order to retain that trust is extremely important. One of the things that AI really introduces to organizations is this ability to discover lots of data and information around the enterprise. And if you don't have the right control mechanisms in place to ensure that folks only have the information that they should have in order to do their jobs, you could inadvertently expose data or information that's ultimately sensitive to your organization. So really having it at the forefront as you're exploring AI and all these AI capabilities, especially those that are embedded in systems and enterprise capabilities, it becomes extremely important to have it at the forefront of your thinking. So I think one is identifying sensitive data. So your AI system, especially in this day and age, is only going to be as smart as the metadata about your content and information. While it can make some assumptions based on patterns, it's really important to have your information in documents with the right classification in place. When you can leverage good tagging and classification in your content with AI capabilities, it becomes extremely powerful because the AI system then becomes aware of the user, but then also the content and the data that's available. But I think understanding your data retention policy is extremely important. Having a retention policy in place and then having the right mechanisms in place to ensure that you're adhering to that policy is extremely important, because holding on to information can increase risk and increase the amount of exposure that an organization may face. And so it's really important to adhere to those policies and make sure that you have the right systems in place to do so. And then the last one is really about training and the human element of AI, I think, thinking about 2026. In my opinion, while the technology is extremely exciting, I think the biggest challenge that's going to face organizations is the change management and the human element of all this. So it's so easy for people to get the answers that they're looking for, or maybe get any kind of answer. So making sure that the organization is trained on how to use these AI tools, what information is sensitive, understanding what's available internally versus externally. I think it's very easy for employees to leverage commercially available tools and start uploading information without being aware of all the implications of what sharing that information could leave for the enterprise. One of the core ones is just not having their content and data tagged with the appropriate level of sensitivity. In the absence of that, the AI system, while most are somewhat intelligent and being able to recognize some elements of PII data, sensitive data like credit card information and social security numbers, there's a whole lot of information that an organization may deem extremely sensitive and accidentally expose to the organization. Prime example might be employee salary data. This is something that, if it's not tagged appropriately with the right metadata, can be exposed through a simple search. Performance review documents, et cetera. So things like that, you want to make sure that you have a good tagging policy within your organization so that your content has the right metadata applied. So I think first is having a foundational understanding of how these tools work. Part of the challenge is more and more software has these capabilities built into them. So really understanding your systems, what their inherent capabilities are, is, I think, kind of first and foremost, and understanding what the potentials are. And then the second piece is understanding your potential for exposure. Where does your content reside? Where does your data reside? Does your AI systems have access to that information? If so, do you have the appropriate metadata applied to that information so that you can kind of control what's available?